Recap. Alchemy Emperor of the Divine Dao, Chapter 1211, Chapter. The air trembled with the lingering aftermath of battle, as if even the heavens themselves held their breath. Ling Han steadied his body, his breathing uneven, yet resolute. Within him, a drop of indestructible true fluid began to circulate once more, its mysterious power surging through his meridians like a hidden river of life. Instantly, his battered flesh responded, torn wounds knitting together, broken tissue reforming with astonishing speed. But he did not stop. Without hesitation, he forced a second drop into motion. This time, however, the heavens seemed less generous. The two currents clashed subtly within him, their power no longer harmonious. The second drop no longer surged with the same divine brilliance. Instead, it merely stabilized the damage, sealing wounds and halting further collapse, yet unable to fully restore him to perfection. Even so, what unfolded was already beyond ordinary comprehension. His recovery was nothing short of miraculous. High above, watching from afar, even the aloof and untouchable Venerable Trinity narrowed his gaze slightly. A flicker of interest, rare and fleeting, surfaced in his ancient eyes. This youth is fairly outstanding. Those simple words, spoken calmly, carried a weight heavier than mountains. For one such as Venerable Trinity, an existence standing at the peak of the galaxy, to offer praise was no trivial matter. Yet those same words pierced Yang Hao like a blade. Jealousy surged within him, dark and uncontrollable. He could already see the possibility forming. What if this Ling Han, this stubborn ant, caught the eye of their master? What if he were taken in as a disciple? If that happened, revenge would slip through his fingers forever. Worse still, he would gain a rival far more terrifying than any enemy he had faced before. The mere thought made Yang Hao's heart twist with unease. And then, as if confirming his worst fears, Venerable Trinity spoke again. "Young man, are you willing to acknowledge me as your master?" The words echoed across the shattered hall, carrying both authority and temptation. Had they been spoken earlier, perhaps Ling Han might have agreed, even if only as a temporary measure, a mask to escape this dire situation. But now? Now it was impossible. Ling Han's gaze turned cold. This man, this so-called venerable existence, had just suppressed Empress Luan Xing, allowing Yang Hao to strike her down without resistance. And now, he dared to extend a hand of mentorship? His future wife had been treated as prey before his eyes. And Yang Hao would become his senior brother? Ling Han let out a low chuckle, his voice calm yet laced with defiance. A teacher must possess virtue. His eyes locked onto the distant figure. Venerable Trinity, do you truly believe you have such virtue? Silence. Utter silence. The entire space froze. It was as if time itself had been struck still. Did they hear that correctly? Did this mere mountain river-tier brat just question Venerable Trinity's virtue? A chill swept through the crowd. Such audacity. Was this madness? Or was it death-seeking arrogance? Two voices exploded in fury. Hua Yongning and Gao Fang stepped forward, their auras flaring violently. Though they had initially dismissed Ling Han as beneath their notice, his insult toward their master forced their hand. They would not tolerate such blasphemy. Meanwhile, Yang Hao exhaled deeply, relief washing over him. Good. Perfect. Now, there was no chance Ling Han would be accepted as a disciple. No matter how talented he was, he had already fate with those reckless words. Inwardly, Yang Hao sneered. A true man knew when to bow and when to stand firm. To resist without strength was nothing more than courting death. Yet even as that thought formed, fear lingered in his heart. What if Venerable Trinity still spared Ling Han out of appreciation? No, he would not allow it. With a furious roar, Yang Hao charged forward. "How dare you insult my master? You're seeking death!" Divine patterns surged across his palm, weaving into a terrifying strike as he poured all his power into a single blow. This time, he would end it, end Ling Han, end all future trouble. When, before the strike could land, the heavens themselves seemed to awaken. Behind Empress Luan Xing, colossal shadows rose, ancient serpent phantoms, each stretching tens of thousands of meters, their forms radiating a desolate primordial aura. The suppression that had bound her shattered instantly. Her eyes gleamed with cold fury as she raised her palm. Without hesitation, she struck toward Yang Hao. "Damn it!" Hua Yongning and Gao Fang reacted at once, their figures flashing forward like lightning. They could not allow Yang Hao to die. Not here. not before their eyes. Failure would cost them dearly. If Yang Hao perished, their standing with Venerable Trinity would collapse. Their hopes of inheriting his supreme teachings would vanish like dust. That was a fate they refused to accept. Boom! The three forces collided. The impact tore through the surroundings like a heavenly calamity. Peng! 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 Shockwaves erupted in all directions, obliterating the palace in an instant. Stone, pillars, and walls were reduced to fragments, scattering like leaves in a storm. Yang Hao, caught near the epicenter, was flung violently into the distance. Pah! Bones cracked within his body. Fortunately, he had only been brushed by the outer shockwave. Had he taken the full force, he would have been annihilated. Even Hua Yongning and Gao Fang were shaken. They stood at the consummate level of the heavenly body tier, and yet, even together, they had nearly been overwhelmed. How could this be? Empress Luanxing had not even reached the pinnacle of their realm. Worse still, this was merely a spiritual imprint she had left behind. If this fragment alone was so powerful, then how terrifying was her true body? Huh? A voice descended from above, calm yet filled with astonishment. Young lady, you are a member of the 9 Snake tribe. A figure appeared from the heavens. Divine light enveloped him, concealing his form, his height, his features. Everything remained hidden. Only his presence could be felt. And that presence was absolute. Venerable Trinity had arrived in person. This supreme eternal riveteer existence, who had previously intervened from afar with effortless dominance, now stood before them, and the reason was clear. The identity of Empress Luanxing was too shocking. Who would have thought, he murmured, his voice trembling with excitement, to encounter a descendant of an ancient divine tribe? His gaze locked onto her, unblinking, as if beholding something priceless. Empress Luanxing felt a chill run through her body. Though she had broken free earlier, she knew the truth. That suppression had been casual, effortless. The gap between heavenly body tier and eternal river tier was a chasm no bloodline could bridge. Even with the power of the 9 snakes, even with her talent, she could not contend with him, especially not in this weakened form. Still, her expression remained calm. So what? She asked quietly, inching closer to Ling Han. If the worst came, they would retreat into the Black Tower. That was their final escape. Ancient divine tribe. Ha! Venerable Trinity laughed loudly, unable to contain himself. The divine light around him faded, revealing his true appearance. A thin, frail-looking elder, yet the aura he exuded was boundless. Even he, the most powerful being in the galaxy, was overcome with emotion, and the more excited he became, the heavier Ling Han's heart grew. This meant one thing. Venerable Trinity wanted her, desperately. Master. Yang Hao stammered as he forced himself upright. Though injured, he held his body together with sheer will and origin power. But Venerable Trinity paid him no attention. His entire focus remained on Empress Luanxing. Young lady, your bloodline belongs to me. The words fell like a sentence of fate. Ling Han's eyes sharpened. So this was his goal. Though they did not know how he intended to extract it, one thing was certain: this was disastrous. Let's go. Ling Han moved instantly, reaching for Empress Luanxing, preparing to bring her into the Black Tower. But, young man, stay out of this. Venerable Trinity did not move. He did not need to. With a mere thought, an invisible force locked Ling Han in place, freezing his body completely. At the same time, he raised a hand toward Empress Luanxing. Yang Hao's fury surged once more. Since his master had taken action, then Ling Han's life belonged to him. Die! He lunged forward, fist aimed straight at Ling Han's head. But at that very moment, a voice echoed from afar. Ling Han! It was distant, as though carried from the edge of the heavens. Then, suddenly, Ling Han! Now it was right beside them. Before anyone could react, Peng, a figure crashed down from above like a falling star. No one saw her arrival. No one sensed her approach. She simply appeared and landed directly on Yang Hao. The ground shattered. A human-shaped crater formed beneath her feet. Yang Hao was smashed into the earth, utterly humiliated. And then, with bright laughter filled with joy, the newcomer shouted, Ling Han back! The winds above the battlefield had yet to settle when a figure descended like a streak of falling starlight. No one saw her arrive. No ripple of origin energy, no distortion of space, just a sudden presence, as if the heavens themselves had quietly opened and dropped her into the mortal world. She was young, far too young, a girl of no more than 15 or 16 summers, with bright, spirited eyes that shimmered like clear springs beneath sunlight. Her teeth were white as jade, her expression pure and vivid, carrying a freshness that pierced straight into the hearts of those who beheld her. It was the kind of beauty that did not rely on adornment or charm. It simply existed, unforgettable, leaving a mark not only in memory but in bone and soul. And yet, this same girl had just stomped Yang Hao into the earth as though he were nothing more than dust. The spectators could not help but feel a strange pity for Yang Hao. Was he cursed by fate? Why did calamity follow him like a shadow? This girl! Her strength is terrifying. Even Ling Han, who had witnessed countless wonders, hesitated for a brief moment. Then, as if something deep within his instincts stirred, he called out, uncertain yet hopeful. Who knew? In this world, who else would refer to themselves as new? At the sound of his voice, the girl's eyes lit up like twin stars igniting in the night. Ling Han! She didn't walk. She dashed forward like a bolt of lightning. Peng! Before anyone could react, she had already leapt into his arms, wrapping her legs tightly around his waist like a mischievous monkey clinging to a tree. Her tall, slender frame made her appear even larger than Ling Han in that moment, and his head was firmly buried against her chest. Though still young, her body had already begun to blossom with the promise of womanhood, soft, warm, and undeniably present. "You missed you so much," she cried, her voice filled with unrestrained joy. Ling Han's face flushed with delight, his heart surging with emotion. "Who knew? It really is you!" The rock palace, it was just as mysterious as ever. Just as they had once vanished without warning, she had now returned without a trace. But joy was fleeting. Hu Niu's expression shifted as she noticed the wounds on Ling Han's body. Her playful demeanour vanished in an instant. A violent aura surged forth from her, like a beast awakening from slumber. Her gaze swept across the crowd, sharp and deadly, before locking onto Venerable Trinity. "Old geezer!" she shouted, her voice carrying killing intent. "Was it you who hurt Niu's Ling Han?" Venerable Trinity merely chuckled faintly, his expression indifferent. He was the supreme existence of this galaxy, the peak of all cultivation here. Why would he lower himself to argue with a mere girl? Though something about her was undeniably strange. Still, those who dared to insult an eternal river-tier elite would not escape unscathed. If he would not act, others would. Gao Fang stepped forward immediately, his voice cold and sharp. "How insolent! How dare you speak so disrespectfully to our venerable master?" Yet even as he scolded her, a trace of caution lingered in his heart. He had witnessed her stomp Yang Hao into the ground. Yang Hao was no ordinary cultivator. He was a prodigy among prodigies, standing at the pinnacle of the Sun-Moon tier. Even injured, he should not have been so easily crushed. To achieve such a feat, one would need to be at the consummate level of the Sun-Moon tier at the very least. Or perhaps heavenly body tier. Could this young girl truly be at that level? Impossible. "Humph," Hu Niu snorted, her small fists clenched. "If that old geezer hurt Ling Han, Niu will tear him apart." Her eyes gleamed with fury. "And even if he didn't, he's clearly the strongest here, yet he let someone hurt Ling Han, so he's still guilty. Niu will smash him anyway. Hu Niu, let go. I'm about to suffocate." Ling Han gasped, struggling to breathe as his face remained buried. Hu Niu giggled, finally releasing him and hopping down lightly. Then she turned toward the crowd, her expression turning fierce once more. "These are all bad people. Niu will eliminate them in the name of the moon." For a brief moment, silence hung in the air, then laughter erupted. What an absurd declaration. This was the majestic heaven sect, guarded by the strongest expert in the galaxy. Even true dragons would tread carefully here. In their eyes, Venerable Trinity was invincible. What could this naive girl possibly do? At that moment, Gao Huang stepped forward, a greedy glint flashing in his eyes as he stared at Hu Niu. "Father, let me handle her." His gaze lingered on her beauty, innocent, radiant, irresistible. He had already decided he would take her as his concubine. Nearby, Hua Yangwen's expression darkened. He too had been captivated by her, but his hesitation had cost him the opportunity. Gao Fang pondered briefly. His son was no weakling. He stood at the consummate level of the Sun-Moon tier and possessed the talent of a 4-star genius. He was far stronger than Yang Hao. There was no way he would lose to this girl. She cannot possibly be heavenly body tier, he thought. Very well, Gao Fang said with a nod. But don't be careless. Gao Huang stepped forward, his voice laced with arrogance. Little girl, since you're young and ignorant, I'll give you a chance. Kneel and apologize to Master. He is merciful. Perhaps he'll spare your life. Of course, he needed Venerable Trinity's permission if he wanted to claim her. Otherwise, even he would be courting death. Hu Niu turned her head, looking at Ling Han with a pout. This person is bad, Ling Han. Can you beat him up? Ling Han smiled faintly. Of course. He gently tapped her forehead, sending a stream of divine sense into her mind, transferring everything that had just occurred. The memory was brief, harmless. Hu Niu closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them again, boom! A violent, overwhelming aura erupted from her body. The surrounding air twisted and condensed, transforming into countless invisible blades, all aimed directly at Gao Huang. Gao Fang's face changed drastically. This power! Without hesitation, he struck out, attempting to shatter the blades and save his son. But it was too late. You dared hurt Niu's Ling Han. Die! Hu Niu raised her hand. Shoo! Shoo! The blades tore through Gao Huang's body in an instant, piercing him again and again until he resembled a grotesque beehive. Ah! He screamed in agony, yet he did not die. Hu Niu had spared his life deliberately. Her nature had always been fierce, unchanged by time. Gao Fang trembled with rage and shock. He had intervened and still failed. Just how powerful was this girl? And you? Hu Niu's gaze shifted to Hua Yangwen. In that instant, a boundless aura of primal chaos descended, as if an entire universe had been summoned into existence. Hua Yangwen spat out blood. His body trembled violently. Though he stood at the peak of the sun-moon tier, he could not withstand even a single glance. But what truly terrified everyone was this. Mixed within the blood were fragments of flesh, pieces of his internal organs. They had been obliterated. There had been no visible movement, no surge of origin power, no intertwining of regulations, just a glance, and yet his organs were reduced to ruin. How is this possible? At that moment, Gao Huang and Hua Yongning could no longer hold back. Attack! They charged toward Hu Niu, unwilling to accept reality. But deep down they already knew this was no ordinary opponent. She was heavenly body tier. How else could she crush Sun Moon tier elites so effortlessly? Hu Niu snorted coldly. You too also dare to bully Ling Han? She pressed her hand downward. Crack! Crack! Two explosive sounds rang out. Their heads burst apart instantly, their divine senses annihilated beyond recovery. Peng! Their headless bodies crashed to the ground, kicking up clouds of dust. Silence. Absolute silence. Fear spread like a plague through the crowd. Gao Huang, Hua Yongning, these were not mere cultivators. They were heavenly body tier elites, consummate level existences, and yet they had been killed instantly, effortlessly, without resistance. In this entire galaxy, aside from Venerable Trinity, who else could accomplish such a feat? And now all eyes turned toward the young girl standing beside Ling Han. This mysterious girl, just what was her true cultivation?